accidentally got on the wrong train, and that mistake turned into the best adventure of my life. So I've been a Reddit lurker for years, but this is something I have to share. This happened last summer, and it's still one of those wait, did that really happen kind of stories. You know, the ones where everything just clicks and somehow turns into something magical. Well, buckle up, because this is one of those. Let me set the stage. I'm a bit of a planner, a control freak, if you will. My friends always call me the organized one, the responsible adult in our group. I'm the type who double-checks everything, train schedules, flight tickets, hotel bookings, you name it. I've been traveling a lot for work, and even though it's usually smooth sailing, I tend to overthink things. That's why this whole incident still blows my mind. So it was a Friday evening. I had just finished a work conference in a city I wasn't too familiar with and was heading home. The plan was simple: catch the train from this little station, head to the main city hub, and then transfer to a train that would take me to my apartment in the suburbs. Easy, right? Now, I'm not a total rookie when it comes to traveling by train. I've done it hundreds of times, but in my defense, this station was a bit chaotic. There were multiple platforms, trains, and announcements overlapping in a confusing mess. People were rushing everywhere. Anyway, I had about 20 minutes to kill, so I grabbed a coffee and just wandered around, pretending to check my phone like I was too cool to care. When the time finally came, I sauntered over to the platform, where the train for my route was supposed to depart. There was one problem, though: I didn't check the platform number. In my defense, there was no clear sign, and I was following the crowd. The train looked just like any other train, same color, same size. I didn't question it. I hopped on. As the doors closed behind me, I took a seat near the window and settled in, pulling out my headphones. I was already thinking about how nice it would be to just relax and unwind after the stressful conference. I had no idea that this would be the start of an adventure that would flip my entire weekend upside down. It wasn't until the train started moving that I noticed something was off. First, I looked at the station's sign outside the window. It wasn't the one I was expecting. I thought, okay, no big deal. Maybe we're just taking a detour. But then I looked around, and I realized I was in a train car with no one familiar. The other passengers were all giving me these side-eye glances, like they knew something I didn't. It took about 5 minutes before the ticket conductor came around, and he looked at my ticket, then at me, and just sort of sighed. That's when it hit me: I was on the wrong train. I didn't recognize the destination name, and there was no way I was going to get to my suburb from here. My first thought? Panic. I mean, it's late, I have no idea where I'm going, and I've never been in this part of the city before. But then the conductor spoke. "You're going to be fine," he said. "This train is headed to a beautiful spot. You'll have an adventure, I promise." I swear I've never heard someone so chill about someone else's mistake. But instead of freaking out like I usually would, I just froze for a moment. Something inside me shifted, and for the first time I thought, what if this is fate? I started thinking about how much I needed a break. I had been working nonstop, stressing over deadlines, and the idea of just letting go for once was kind of exciting. Maybe this was the universe telling me to embrace the chaos for once. So I decided to stay on the train and see where it took me. I figured, worst case, I'd get off at the next stop and figure out a way back. Fast forward an hour, and I'm still on the train, watching the scenery change from urban sprawl to something more wild. The train was weaving through forests, rolling hills, and small villages. It felt like I had stepped into a different world, one far removed from the hustle and bustle of the city I'd just come from. The train eventually stopped at a tiny station, somewhere deep in the countryside. I had no idea where I was, but there was this strange pull to get off. The air was fresh, the sun was setting, and I could hear the distant sound of birds. It was quiet in a way that was almost eerie. As I stepped off the train, I felt this mix of nervous excitement. Now here, where things get wild. The station was barely more than a few old wooden benches and a small kiosk that seemed to be closing down for the day. As I walked down the gravel path, I came across a local couple who were just about to leave the area. They looked like they were in their mid-50s, and they smiled at me, clearly noticing my confusion. "Lost, dear?" the woman asked. "Kind of," I admitted, laughing awkwardly. "I'm supposed to be heading back to the city, but I think I got on the wrong train." "Well, you're in the right place for an adventure," she said with a wink. "We're heading to a little inn just up the road. You're welcome to join us if you'd like." I didn't know why, but I agreed. Maybe it was the charm of the whole situation, or maybe I was just ready for something new. Either way, I followed them. A walk to the inn was about 15 minutes, and by the time we arrived, it was dark. The inn looked straight out of a storybook: wooden beams, stone walls, and a little garden lit by fairy lights. Inside, it had this cozy, rustic vibe. The couple introduced me to the owner, who immediately made me feel at home. His name was Leo, and he had this welcoming smile that could put anyone at ease. As the evening unfolded, I learned that the couple, Linda and Peter, came to this inn every year for a quiet getaway. They told me the place was special, steeped in history, and not the kind of place most tourists would find. There was something magical about the inn and the surrounding area. The locals spoke about it as though it was their little secret. I ended up spending the night there, and I'll admit, it was one of the best nights I've ever had. There were stories told by the fire, homemade food that was out of this world, and just this sense of peace that I hadn't realized I needed. The next day, Leo gave me a map of the area and pointed me toward a beautiful lake about 10 miles away. "If you're up for it, take a walk. It's the best place to think," he said. Night before, I still felt the strange sense of calm that enveloped me after meeting the locals. Walking around the outskirts of the village, I began to realize that this place wasn't just another spot on the map. It was part of something bigger, something that existed in the shadows of the ordinary world, invisible to most, but clear to those who knew how to look. The tranquility of it all hit me harder than I expected. In the morning, after a night spent reflecting on the peaceful conversations and the lives of the people I had met, I decided to take a walk to the lake. I'd heard about it the previous evening from Peter and Linda. They mentioned that it was a spot known only to few, a place that had a unique energy, something you couldn't quite explain but could feel deeply. As I walked down the narrow, winding path through the trees, the sounds of the village faded away. The birds seemed to sing in a different rhythm here. The air smelled fresher, and with each step, I felt more connected to the earth beneath my feet. It was as if I was shedding layers of stress, of noise, of everything I'd carried with me for years. When I reached the lake, I couldn't believe my eyes. The water was so still, it looked like glass, reflecting the sky above like a mirror. There was no ripple, no movement, nothing to disturb the perfect, serene surface. The shore was lined with tall grasses that swayed slightly in the breeze, and the trees surrounding the lake created a natural barrier, as though protecting it from the outside world. But what struck me most was the sense of isolation. It was peaceful, yes, but there was something more to it. The place felt ancient, the type of ancient that made your skin tingle. There were no tourists here. No one had set up a bench for visitors or left any traces of their presence. It was untouched, pristine, like a secret the land itself was keeping. I walked along the shore, my feet crunching on the gravel path. As I did, I noticed a peculiar structure in the distance. It wasn't large, more like a small, weathered stone circle, partially hidden by a cluster of overgrown bushes and trees. I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't walked around the bend. Something about it called to me. Curiosity piqued. I moved closer, brushing aside branches as I approached. The stone circle was old, no doubt about it. The edges of the stones were smooth from years of weathering, and moss had claimed the surface in places. But there was something undeniably powerful about it. A strange energy lingered in the air, and as I stood there, I felt as though I was standing on the edge of something ancient, a place where time itself had paused. I sat down on one of the stones, letting the silence wash over me. For a while, I simply stared out at the lake, unsure of what exactly I was searching for. But then, as I let my mind wander, the memories of the past few days began to swirl in my head. The locals, their peacefulness, the way they spoke about life as though every moment was part of a larger story. I realized then that this place wasn't just a random stop on my accidental adventure. It was a turning point. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. This was where I was meant to be. This quiet, mysterious place by the lake had a pull on me, something I couldn't fully explain. It wasn't just about escaping the noise of the city or the pressures of my work life. It was about reconnecting with something deeper. The people here, the stories they shared, the timeless beauty of the landscape, it all felt like a call to pause and reflect on what really mattered. Didn't know how long I sat there. It could have been an hour, maybe more. But as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting a golden glow over the water, I felt a shift within me. The tension I'd been carrying for so long was slowly dissolving. In this place, time didn't feel like it was moving forward in the way I was used to. It was like I had stepped outside of it, like I was suspended between two worlds, the chaotic, busy life I'd known, and this serene, timeless reality. Before I left, I touched one of the stones in the circle, almost as if to thank it for its quiet wisdom. I felt a sense of calm settle in me, a calm that I knew I had been searching for, but never knew existed. As I walked back toward the village, I realized that my accidental journey had led me here, to this extraordinary place. It wasn't just about the wrong train ride anymore. It was about finding a part of myself that had been buried under the noise of everyday life. And somehow, I knew that whatever this place was, it had just changed me. I spent the next 2 days wandering the countryside, taking in the beauty of nature and reflecting on my life. I didn't check my phone, didn't worry about emails or deadlines. I was just present. The more I explored, the more I realized that getting on the wrong train wasn't a mistake at all. It was exactly what I needed.